I'm Officer Albano with the Greenberg Police Department, and tonight I'm going to be reading a book for you called The Ugly Duckling, written by Hans Christian Andersen. One fine summer day, a mother's duck eggs began to crack. 6 little ducklings sprang from their shells. Peep, peep, they cried. Are you all here? The mother asked. She counted the ducklings. Then she looked into the nest. The largest egg was still unhatched. The mother duck sat, and at last the big egg began to crack. Peep, peep, cried the new duckling. See the one little new duckling? The mother gasped when she saw him, for he was big and ugly. He does not look like the others, she thought. I wonder if he can swim. The duckling splashed into the water with the strange ugly duckling last at all. He swam merrily with the rest. The mother was pleased. After a long swim, she marched her children into the barnyard to meet the other birds. Look at that big, ugly one, some of the ducks murmured. They began to laugh and peck at him. Leave him alone, cried the mother. He swims well, and he will grow to be a fine drake, I am sure. But day after day, the poor duckling's life in the barnyard grew worse. Not only did the ducks make fun of him, but the chickens and turkeys did as well. Finally, he could stand no more, and he ran away. He soon came to a swamp that was surrounded by woods. There he slept all night under a friendly moon. In the morning, the wild swamp ducks found him. You certainly are ugly, one wild duck said, but you may stay here as long as you don't bother us. So the duckling stayed alone in the rushes for 2 whole days. Then 2 wild geese came, wanting to pass time. You are so ugly that I like you, one of them said. Come with us, and we will introduce you to some other geese. But before they could go, a great bang, bang ran through the woods. In a flash, the 2 young geese were gone. Hunters and their dogs were coming through the woods. Whoa. The duckling looked about him. Close by, he saw an enormous dog. Its tongue hung out of its mouth. The dog came closer and closer, but after a good look at the ugly duckling, it ran off another way. Thank goodness, cried the ugly duckling. When he was sure it was safe to fly, the ugly duckling started to fly away. Flying was difficult, for there was a strong wind, but he kept on till evening, when he came to a little tumble-town cottage. The duckling slipped inside. The cottage belonged to an old woman who lived there with a tomcat and a hen. What good luck, she said, when she saw the ugly duckling. We shall have duck eggs, if it doesn't turn out to be a drake. Can you lay eggs? The hen asked the ugly duckling. Can you purr or arch your back? The tomcat asked. No, the ugly duckling said, but I can swim. Swim, said the hen. What earthly good is swimming? You should learn to lay eggs. Or purr, added the tomcat. You do not understand me, said the young drake. I had best be on my way. Poor little duck. Outside, the autumn winds were howling. The young drake swam and dived, but he was all alone. One frosty evening, a flock of beautiful white birds flew past. The young drake felt strange when he saw them. He cried out to them and spun around in the water, but soon the birds were out of sight. The weather grew colder, and one day the pond froze. The bird was stuck fast in the ice. Next morning, a kind peasant happened by. He broke the ice with his wooden clogs, and he carried the bird home. The peasant's children wanted to play with the bird, but they chased him around the room. He flew up in a panic and spilled milk on the floor. Uh-oh. Oh, the peasant's wife cried, raising her hands in horror. This frightened the bird still more. He flew into the new butter, then into the flour bin. Out of the house before you spoil all the food, she screamed. And she drove the young drake outdoors once again. For the rest of the winter, he slept in the marsh grass. When the sun began to shine warm again, he awoke. His feathers were a lighter color now. When he stretched his wings, he found that they were big and strong. He's not a duck, he's a swan. The bird flew until he came to a splendid garden. There was a pond, and on it glided 3 of the most beautiful white birds he had ever seen. They will not let me swim with them, he thought sadly, but at least I can gaze at them in all of their beauty. The swan swam closer, and the bird bowed his head as they passed. But there in the water, what did he see? So look, he's looking at his own reflection. He looks like the other ones. A graceful, long-legged white bird looked back at him, and this bird was lovelier than all the others. He had been a swan all along, though none had known it, and now all the beautiful swans were gathering about to welcome him. 2 children ran into the garden. Look, look, one of them cried. There's a new one. He is the loveliest of all, the other child said. The swan was filled with joy. I never thought I should know such happiness, he said to himself, when I was but an ugly duckling. I think that's such a good story and such a good lesson that you should never judge a book by its cover, and also that if somebody doesn't seem just like you or act just like you or look just like you, it doesn't mean that you can't treat them as the way you want to be treated, right? With that, have a great night.